Hey everybody, my name is Jyotir and I am the resident Flow Wizard at Sounds of Light Mystery School. And I'm making this video to kind of share with you all a bit of my own journey with community, and how that's maybe going to apply to your process in deciding whether or not to join us. Shed a little light on maybe also what I do in the space. So, I mean, first of all, my journey, I believe, is probably quite similar to most of your journeys in that I've done a lot of facilitator trainings, transformational retreats, really stocked up my spiritual utility belt, like the Batman of spirituality, with all my gizmos and gadgets at the ready. So how am I going to use them, you know? And I quickly found that while I had many tools and I learned many things, more learning wasn't really the way to go. I wanted a place to apply what I'd learned, to a safe space to explore with the tools that I learned, to go inside and to deal with whatever came up. Because as you're probably well aware, this journey of ascension, however you want to call it or describe it, it's messy. It's really fucking messy. You know, it's not all love and light. And a lot of times when you join a yoga teacher training, for example, there's an implicit agreement that I've got my shit. Sure, I've got lots of issues and trauma that comes up in my life, but my life is over there. And here, I'm bringing nothing but love and light to the situation. And that's an implicit agreement to suppress the negativity. But what happens when you're in any environment, doing any practice that raises your vibration, is the things inside of you that don't resonate at that high frequency, they come to the surface ready to be dealt with. It's like the universe saying, okay, you're ready, you're here, you're at the place where you can deal with this, so here it is to deal with. And if you start to suppress that, you are not actually taking the step into a higher vibration. You need to deal with the things of a lower vibration that are inside of you. They're there so you can see them and learn from them. You could say transmute them, but not in the sense of getting rid of them. You need to face them to move forward. And, you know, living in community, and what I've seen, whether people are going into it with that implicit agreement to suppress it, or they know what they're getting into, no matter how they're coming into it, they're being faced with mirrors, with people and situations that mirror an internal conflict or an internal energy or situation that they are ready to let go of, ready to face. Or another way to put it would be to say these things are preventing them from taking the next step. So if they're going to progress further, they need to deal with these things. And that is something that I found in my, especially early on in my process, in my journey, in my working with this stuff, was not always easy to get people on the level of seeing, acknowledging, being present with these things that arise for me or for other people in community, and actually sitting there and being present with it and working through it. And anytime that there was a reluctance to do that, anytime that a space wasn't holding that kind of container, I found more conflict rather than less, and there was less expansion. So a major part of what we're doing in creating the space is we raise our vibration, and then as things arise, whether I'm not only talking, right now I'm talking about negative things that arise, you know, duality, positive, negative. They can be positive things arising that we will learn to deal with, learn to channel, learn to work with. That's 100% part of the process. What I'm getting at is the role that community plays in the mystery school, and how it differs from a specific teacher-student dynamic, is that rather than acquiring a bunch of new things that you'll have to go out into the world and learn to integrate, it's a space to integrate the practices that you already have. And maybe to learn a bit about sound, of course, and to learn from other people and other people's experiences and the unique gifts that they all have to share. My job as Flow Wizard, my role in the community, is to facilitate that coming together, all of these different energies coming together, whether they're the energies of teachers, of some of the beings, entities that we work with, the energy of the practice, the energy of the space, bring all of those things into harmony so that we are present for each other and supportive of each other through the whole event, through the highest of highs, being there for each other in those moments of joy and overflowing, and then the lowest of lows, the times when the things that are coming up, the past trauma or the current conflict or whatever, and still being there, still being held and seeing that it's okay. Because that's what we're stepping out of. We're stepping out of a society, for most of us, I think, that's based around repression, around putting down those things that we don't want to be seen in, and then they become subconscious, they become patterns, things that then we come into a situation, a setting like the mystery school to deal with, right? But then in order to deal with them, what we really need is that space and that container and that safety to actually see them and to work with them. And then, of course, the guidance. That's why we have facilitators to help us work with things as they come up. People who've done this work before, people who are doing this work now, people whose lives are dedicated to this work and holding space for each other. So I just want to tell a little story about this kind of dynamic. So I did a teacher training in India, and it was a very traditional Hatha yoga teacher training, and the teachings had all been passed down by an enlightened guru. And so they were held onto and taught with no interpretation, it was like reading from a textbook when most of the teachers are up before the class. And it was like memorization, they really did a good job of transmitting this information, but there wasn't a lot of room for interpretation and question asking. They had one Swami who came in as a substitute because the person who was supposed to teach the Bhagavad Gita was sick. And this Swami was teaching very differently than everybody else, kind of off the cuff. You didn't always know what he was talking about kind of until the end. He was telling these anecdotal stories loosely related to the Bhagavad Gita. It was fascinating. And one day he said that no system had ever created an enlightened being. No system had ever created an enlightened being. And that struck me because we were in a system. But what he was talking about was this fifth dimension, this space that we can't expand, we can't let, whether you call it the divine, spirit, oneness, our true essence, we can't let that fully express itself if we're putting it within a rigid structure of this is how we behave, this is what we do, this is how it is, following teachings like we're painting by numbers. We are working at a level where that no longer works. That teacher-student dynamic has its place, and most of us have been through it, and we'll dabble in that a little bit, but the point of the space is that each person is bringing something unique, and they're being allowed, witnessed, and empowered, really empowered to step more deeply into who they are, to let go of the things, let go of the suppressions, let go of the blockages, the limitations self-imposed or imposed by others, and coming into a space where we are able to shine, and then even fail in the shining and be seen in our shit, be seen in our sadness, so that we can move through that. Because unless we move through it, we're stuck in it. And I'm super excited to be part of this project. I feel super blessed, and I hope you'll join us in Guatemala. So for now, peace from New York.